All right. Welcome, everybody, back to the Champagne Society podcast. I have my very new friend, Juliana James here. Thank you so much for your time. Thanks for doing
Yes.
this.
Thanks for having me.
I'm so excited. We are new friends, and we are both equally passionate about our new friendship and have never had a conversation. And so this is really exciting. This is like, I think we both feel like we know a lot about each other because social media is so amazing. But personally, I just find you to be so fascinating. And I just want to follow my natural curiosity and learn all about you today. How does that sound?
That's amazing. And I'm so in for it.
Yeah, like amazing slash slightly terrifying. That would be the
No,
natural.
no, I'm in. I'm
No?
not risk adverse. Let's do this.
Yes. Well, I guess I should start by explaining that you are a transformational business coach. And I stumbled upon your content on Instagram and I love it because A, you're also a mom of three. So anytime I meet a mom of three, I'm like, hi, what's your phone number? And B, I love how you show up online. It's like so authentic. It's so funny. It's so magnetic. And so I kind of was just like, oh, this girl has such a cool way of connecting to her clients and connecting to her audience. And it's something that I try to do in my content is to just be myself, like just be myself. And so I don't even know that much about what you do as a business coach because I just see how you show up in the space and I can just kind of assume how it goes, but I love that you do a lot of inner work. You talk a lot about the inner work necessary. And so the first thing I want to know is like, would you mind telling me your story? Like how you got to this point in your life, if you don't mind starting from where you feel is an acceptable starting point, as far back as you want to go. I would love to learn how you got here because you're so interesting.
Oh, well, when I was born, no, I'm just kidding. Yeah, I think in the whole experience of my being, I always felt like I didn't want to do things the regular way. There was no like process of, okay, I'm going to be like everybody else. I didn't look out into the world and see this. And much to my parents' dismay, they had really wanted me to just be like normal. And that just wasn't my way. I'm really sorry. I have a hair in my mouth.
Get that thing out. Your hair looks really good though.
Oh, nice. Day 2 and motherhood, school at 8 a.m. So I was a little bit different and I always knew that, but I didn't have the embodiment, I didn't have the confidence to understand what that meant at a young age, especially in your high school years when everybody's prepping for college. And I was like, college, like, what do you mean? Like, I don't want to. We're in Canada, we call it university. They were all going off to different universities across Canada and the US. And I was like, this isn't what I want for my life. So I was really into exploration of myself. And I felt like, I needed to get away. So I moved to Asia at a young age.
Like how young? How young are we talking here?
Okay, so at 18, I moved to a different city than my parents lived in.
Okay.
I worked for 2 years as a bartender.
This is in Canada. You're Canadian,
in Canada,
right?
Yeah,
of course.
Yeah. And
of course.
I moved 3 hours away from my family, started bartending, met my closest, dearest humans, and we just became this little family. It was amazing. We had like a wild and crazy party lifestyle. And it was amazing. And I met my now husband, and that life was exciting because it fit the bar of everything that I was, like I could be eccentric and wild and still like pretty and fun, and we're having a blast, and we were the it girls of our community, and like we were just like living the dream. Like my best friend and I lived in an apartment building that was like made for artists. She was upstairs, I was down. She'd like run into my apartment at 6 a.m, like, I have a new guy in my house, I have to poo, can I put in your house? Like, yes. And it was just like a beautiful,
the glory days.
Yes. And we're both moms now, so it's funny to think back and look back. And so I came to a point though where that lifestyle starts to have an expiration date, and I was like, okay, what are we going to do?
You get kind of bored, right?
Yeah, and you're like, I've got to grow up. All my friends were starting to finish their undergraduate degrees. I was like making piles of cash because this was the oil boom. I live in an oil town very similar to Houston. It's Calgary in Canada. And I was making a lot of money, but I was like, okay, what's next? So I remember going to Travel Cuts as a travel place. And I said, where are all the kids going? And she said, Europe or Asia. And I said, okay, well, I've got about $5,000. Where should I go? And she said, well, Asia, you could live for a long time there. So like, go there. So
some lady that you don't know her name decided the fate of the next couple of years of your life is what you're telling me. Okay.
Absolutely. Cool. Yeah. So one of my friends, she was like, yeah, I got nothing to do. And we're the same age. So she's like, I'll come with you. And we went to, Thailand, Cambodia, Laos, Malaysia. And I remember sitting on a beach and looking up and being like, God, what's wrong with me? Like, why am I not satisfied? And it was just that began the exploration of myself.
Pause. Are you saying that because this is so good? I'm so fascinated by the story. And I find a lot of parallels in my own story. So of course I love that. But when you say that, is it because you're sitting on this beach in Laos or something and you're not content in that moment? Or is it because you're on this beach in Laos and you are content, but you feel like you should get a 9-to-5 job or something?
I have a perpetual state of not content in my experience. I don't think I've ever been content for more than a few hours. So there was a little bit of that. And there was also like, what's wrong with me? Because the conditioning of society, of societal norms, of my parents' desires for my life, and my partners who, like my friends, that I had left behind, my high school boyfriend that was off becoming a financial advisor, and all these people that the dissonance was becoming so large because you're no longer conformed to this institution where you're like in community with other people. And all of a sudden this dissonance was so huge that I was like, is there something wrong here? Did you miss the mark here, God, with me? Like, what's going on? Like, what's wrong with my spirit that I'm so eccentric and wanting more, but not entirely sure how to embody that? And also feeling like I would do this confidence thing where I'm like, I'm awesome. No, I'm not. And a lot of fear going on, in my spirit. And I had to reconcile a lot of like childhood trauma that had gone on, and not capital T trauma, nothing extensive, but I'm a daughter of an immigrant. My mom's from Brazil. My dad came out when I was 9. So I had, my parents were divorced, and all the things, we all have a story and we all have depth to us. And these things that my parents kept thinking, wow, she's so grown up and she's so able to roll with the punches. But little did they know I was just internalizing everything into perfectionism and becoming this thing that they wanted me to be. I was well-spoken. I could hold a conversation, but inside I was just dying to figure out, who is this human that I've become? And so that was really my process. And I started running out of money while traveling. So we moved to Taiwan and became English teachers.
Oh my God.
And so, all of a sudden I was 22 years old at that point, and was with this classroom of kids. And I remember being like, I am not a real adult. And so there was a lot of formative years, like of growing up, of becoming in that state of independence. And I had left Brody in Canada, and he was like, no, she's not going to actually leave. And that's my partner. And so he ended up following me, and he came to Taiwan. So we were playing house essentially at 22, teaching English and like being adults, but then really not. And we spent a couple of years there, and it was pretty amazing.
Oh, yeah. This story went places we didn't even get to India yet.
No.
And I know that you also went to India, and it's so funny because I spent time in Peru after college. Well, wait, when did I go to Peru? It's kind of, I'm not going to get into all of it, but I similarly was like, I want to, explore, and I just want to feel different. I want something different than this. But it does sound to me like when you're saying I was conforming to what my parents wanted me to be on the outside, do you feel like the traveling and the lifestyle that you chose was kind of you exerting control and rebellion against your parents in the one way that you felt like you could? Or was it authentic to you? Like this feels really more exciting to me.
Yeah, there's a little bit of both. And I've been really asking myself, because we still, that we, and we'll circle back to this, but we were traveling in Nicaragua recently with our entire family. So like, I made this a thing. Like I brought my kids now that
it's
I'm
like
a
your
parent.
identity. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a part of me. And so I've really grappled with, now that I'm doing the inner trauma work and really facing some of the patterns that I've created and the responses that I've had of dysregulation, especially in anxiety, and why. And I had built an entire business, a yoga studio, just trying to like anchor myself in 2016. I was trying to be like, be a good mom and do the PTA stuff and volunteer and start a yoga studio so that you can anchor. And I did this with this aspiration that I could stay in one place, but realizing too that some of it was escapism of trying to get away from what I was feeling. And a lot of it is my natural tendency towards anthropological searches of like understanding cultures and people and humans. And the thing that's true across all borders is that people have stories and family drama and intensity and love and betrayal and grief and all of these things that's a commonality of all humanity. And that's so beautiful to me, and something that has been so inspiring to pursue just the search of human beings and understanding them, and also just holding space for the fact that we've all had some type of intensity in our lives, and that the human capacity to change and evolve is just so like, I have goosebumps. It's like, it's so empowering to be a part of. And so traveling was just always a part of my fabric. And so when I can circle back. So there was some traveling in between Guatemala, Mexico when I came back from Taiwan. But then when I had decided on India, it was really my kind of eat, pray, love adventure of like trying to sort out the humanness within myself, but also recognizing that I had moved away from a lifestyle that was no longer serving me, that I wasn't into the quick conversations of the party lifestyle, and I was looking to be educated on a little bit more. And India is a place where you meet yourself. Anything you thought was real, you'll likely recognize is not when you go to a place like that, because there's just billions of people. So there's no exaggeration, billions. So the energetic exchange is so wild and intense. And that was a big exploration into the self. And I had also been teaching yoga. So it was a place that I thought I was going to go practice for months. But I had left unbeknownst to me with a stowaway. And I had become pregnant with my first daughter. So I found out in India 6 weeks into my trip that I was pregnant, and that was a beautiful experience.
Well, wait. Okay. So then what is your husband's name?
Brody.
So then how long were you with Brody at this point?
So Brody and I had been together for 6 years when we got pregnant with Amelia. So we've been together for 16 now. And she'll be 11 in November. And there was a lot of off and on though. We were young.
Yeah. No, I understand. Yeah. But I'm wondering, when you went to India, was it like, I'm going to India to do my own thing and I'll be back never? Or was it like, hey, boyfriend, partner, I'm going to go to India and I'll be back soon and I love you kind of a thing?
Brody and I have this like history, right? And we have this thing. So we had gone on vacation to the west coast of Canada near Seattle to just have this like romantic getaway before I left, obviously.
Oh,
and we go
very romantic.
And I swear we both knew, like energetically, you just know. I was like, oh, we just made a Scorpio. Like, and so we had gone on this vacation, this romantic vacation, and he was kind of always of the ilk of like, you're going to have my babies one day. And I was like, no, that's not for me. I don't have children.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Because this is part of my questioning of your journey. Was it like, that's not for me. I'm an independent woman. So watch me go to India and you stay here and maybe I'll be back and maybe we'll talk? Or was it like, I don't know. It sounds like it was a little bit of both.
Yeah. So like your womb starts calling to you around 25-ish.
Yes, it does.
And it starts like, hey, like,
Yeah.
you see that baby over there? And
Mm-hmm.
so that was a part of my experience for sure, physiologically. And when you have somebody that's showing up and that is like really not leaving, like I had really created every environment for him to go. like I left him and moved to Taiwan. He followed me. I left Taiwan and moved back to Canada. The
He
poor
just
guy.
kept following you.
Well,
Bless
there
him.
was some, he was like, fine, I'm going to date someone else. And then, a couple months in, I was like, are you happy? He's like, I hate you. And like, there was a lot, I'm not going to pretend
God,
like
I
it was
love this.
sunshine and rainbows. The sun is starting to blast in my window here. So there was a lot of that. And when I had left for India, it was kind of, he would say like, he was very clear, India is not for me. I'm not going to be traveling to India. I would like to travel at like a 5-star resort, but not India.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm going to go live, like bootstrap it.
Yeah.
And so when I left, I gave him, he had my suitcase because I had 2 suitcases, one for India, one for Canada. It's cold and it was January.
Mm-hmm.
And so I said, could you drop this off with my best friend? And he said, no, I'll just keep it until you're home. And I was like, oh, I'm not sure when I'm coming home. Like, I haven't decided yet. And
this is so sexy. It's like he just has no idea. Like it's just like such a mystery. I love it.
Poor guy. And so I had left. I left my things with him. He said, don't worry about it. I'll keep it. And I said, it could be 6 months. It could be 6 years. I'm gonna roll with what life offers me. Mm-hmm. And 6 weeks into my trip, I realized I had packed all these tiny OB tampons. And not a single one of them was used. And I was like, wait, let me do some math here. I'm so sorry. I'm going to close these drapes.
Yeah, girl.
There we go. Saw my child jumper. Or my 10-year-old's clothes. There we go.
Love it.
So yeah, I had found out I was expecting. I remember that phone call. I called him and I said, like, are you still in? And he was like, I've always been in. There's just never been an out for me. And so I came home and we had a baby.
He was just kind of like waiting for you to get your wild out. It's like, or at least that's what it sounds like to me. This is how I have romanticized your stories. Like, oh, I'm going to just let her do her. And when she comes back.
I feel like he's still doing that. We just do it in the same house now.
That's amazing.
And every so often I tell him I want my own house. And he's like, don't say that in front of the kids. And I'm like, I'm going on vacation by myself, but I don't. I think about it.
Yeah. When I went to, so I also taught English in South America. So the second time I went, I lived in Chile and I was an English teacher. And I told my now husband, Kevin, we had been dating for like 4 months, I think, 5 months. Basically, before we started dating, I had just broken up with a long-term on again, off again boyfriend of 6 years, whatever. And I was like, I'm joining the Peace Corps. Like, I'm doing this thing. I am like an independent woman. I got big shit to do. And then I met Kevin. And I had historically been very aloof when dating and very like non-committal. And immediately I was like, shit, this guy is definitely different. And so probably about 2 months into us dating, I was like, if I'm being real with myself, like I know I cannot go for 2 years because I really like him. Like I really think I'm going to marry him. And this is just because I always did want like the motherhood, like the marriage. I was like really old school in that way, but I just had to like, I wanted to do a bunch of stuff first because I felt like I couldn't have both at the same time, which is, we're going to go into that. But anyway, so then I changed the Peace Corps plan and I was part of the UN English Opens Doors program in Chile. And I became an English teacher for 4 months in the Atacama Desert. And after that, I was like, okay, for the last month of this, so for month 6, I'm going to travel all around South America because my father's Colombian. And I just like always have felt called to South America. I just wanted to keep exploring new countries and cities. And so he's like, okay, well, I'll be there. I'll be there for month 6. And I was like, what? Like, I love you, but like, I'll be back after month 6. And whenever he tells this story, he's like, I went back to get her. Like, I just had to make sure that she was coming back.
Yeah.
And it actually was horrible. Like we fought the whole time because I had been essentially like living this single backpacking I don't know, lifestyle for 5 months, super independent and fluent in Spanish. And then I get this gringo who is always looking at maps and asking for the plan. And I had to constantly try to explain, this is part of the game. We don't make plans. We just get off the bus and we just look around to find the closest hostel, right?
Yeah.
Like that's part of the adventure. And that made him want to die. Like it was so hard for him. And we are so different in this way, but it works out. I think in domesticated life, we can kind of make it work. But when we're in the wild, we have no, our survival instincts are totally different. I'm like, okay, time to adapt, blend, go with the flow. Here I go, here I go, here I go, you know? And he's like, where's the map? Where's the rules? What's the bus schedule? He was so about the bus schedule in South America. So you said your dad's Brazilian. Have you been to South America?
My mom is Brazilian, and I think I was fighting against Brazil for a long time because I was trying to like move, but I understand and I feel you so deeply in this. But the furthest south we went was Nicaragua. No, I've been to, wait a second. How far is Guatemala's?
Oh, I don't know. Oh no. So anyway, if this is a geography question,
we're out.
I am not here for
travel, but like we don't know where. So like I feel this on the deepest part of my being that when we were going to Nicaragua, I was like, great, we bought the tickets, we're good. Like literally I would have just been like, any houses for rent, like when we got there. And he was like planning everything. And I remember feeling like, this is not how I do things. And he's like, you have kids now.
Yeah.
You have to properly.
Stupid kids. But then also when you try to plan in a lot of these countries, they don't plan. So circling back to the bus schedule, Kevin would be like, what's the bus schedule? And I was like,
late.
There's no schedule. The schedule is maybe the bus driver stopped and had a beer on the way here. Maybe he came straight here. Maybe he decided to visit his brother in the nearby town. You have no idea when these buses are coming. There's no bus numbers. There's no bus schedule. You just go to the stop and pray to God you get to your final destination.
Absolutely.
So I feel like that's, I think, why planning in some of these countries just feels futile.
Yeah.
Silly. Okay, sorry. I just feel like I feel this so much, everything that you're saying. And so I just wanted to share that. So, okay, where are we? So you're in India. And then you're pregnant. So you come home and he's like, I've been waiting for you all along. And then you're just like, woohoo, we're going to be a happy family. Let's have 3 kids and live in Canada forever.
Yeah.
Right?
So we kind of, and we were playing house, and our parents, it like really took some time for our parents. So we didn't have the traditional, like we didn't have a house. We didn't have plates. We didn't have like things, you know, I was like living I had a fancy backpack. I had no assets. And so it really took our family some time to catch up to where we were, because they were kind of like, you are a vagabond. And my dad is this very professional, like dentist, like, you know, he is a dentist and has his way. And my mom was kind of like, is this like she's Brazilian. She's like, is this like a phase? Like, like what's going to happen? And so I swear, like, as my belly was growing, they're like, oh my gosh, you're really pregnant. Like, what's going to happen? Like, and then they started buying all the Peg Prego stuff. And I was like, I don't need this. Like,
they were like, it's called a fork. We think you really do need this.
They actually went to Costco in, no joke, in the middle of the night, like not the middle of the night, obviously it's not open 24, but I was in the hospital having Amelia, and they went and stocked our little condo. And I was so overwhelmed because there was boxes everywhere. And I came home with this baby and was like, why is there boxes? But they were doing their best to catch up to where we were. And they were really supportive as best as possible. So we built a life. And this is just a testament to the fact that you don't need as much as you think you do. For all new parents out there, like, it is a process of becoming, and that was such a beautiful stage. And I think I fell in love with Brody at that point, because I remember looking at him and being like, oh, okay, like I can love you. I don't have to keep running from this. I just
Surrender.
realized that he was very much on board. So after that, it was a series of like, oh, okay, I should probably. So I actually didn't even start university until I was 26 years old.
Mm.
And then I went and took psych.
Mm.
We planned our second pregnancy.
Look at you.
The only one we planned out of the three. And and she's our favorite. Just kidding. Like kind of. And we decided that we were going to have a baby in April so that I could finish my degree. And you know, and it didn't go to plan. We started trying. We thought our second could maybe potentially take longer. We weren't sure. And we got pregnant with Charlotte right away. So she was born the following June. And that was our second. And I think when you have your second, you become like a family.
Yeah.
Like it's not just two hipster traveler people with one child that can still be cool. It was like all of a sudden it was like schedules and real life. And I became the most like domesticated I had ever been. I started baking. I started like doing the thing, doing school at night, but like sharing the parental duties, nursing. You know, there was just so much involved, and I became an adult in that time. Yeah.
Do you feel like you embraced suburban? Because I feel like I understood suburban living when I had my second. I just was like, yeah, more space would be great. Yeah. Like a bathroom would be nice. Yeah. A yard for my kids to play in. I don't care. Like, I don't care about all this stuff that I used to care about. Because everything's changed now anyway. So who am I, like, is this like a game, you know?
So we are the exception to that one. So Brody is an urban dweller.
Oh, yeah.
Center of all things. So the house that we live in currently is right behind our high school that we both went to, but we didn't know each other. It was a huge school. And we're right off one of the main area. Like we are downtown.
Oh, so you're saying you're downtown. Got it.
And we very much are urban dwellers. So like, as far as the suburbia thing, it never worked for him particularly. And we've just made it really cool with the kids. Like we take them, we still infuse a lot of that traveler tendency of like introducing them to the inner city life. We don't want it to be curated. We do live in a very wealthy community that is downtown. It's central. And so the houses are amazing. We're like the worst house on the fanciest street kind of thing. But we take them to urban bike rides and skateboards so that they can see that, you know, they are growing up with privilege, but that they understand that there's all different types in this world, and that they've got to be a part of so my kids are very comfortable being in urban environments and just being around different cultural experiences, and they understand. And also, having taken them to Nicaragua, they just saw the socioeconomic diversity, and they really, I think, understood at that point how lucky they were. Our son was 4 when we left, so he's just hunter-gatherer type, you know, when they're that little. But our oldest and middle child really understood, you know, oh wow. And like we help them to understand we're of the 1%, and that's something that you need to understand in this world, that you can use your power for good, and we really try to empower them to make changes. And so Amelia came home the other day and she said, I know what I want to be when I grow up, an activist. Okay. All right. That sounds.
Oh, that's so sweet.
Yeah.
So then when you did the world schooling, so then maybe can you just share about that? Because that's something else that I learned about you that I thought was so cool, because I've always wanted to do this too. But I mean, my baby's 15 months old, and I feel like for so long, I've just been trying to get to the point I'm at now, where I just always knew I wanted 3. I was like, I just want to complete our little wolf pack. You know, like I see it in my mind's eye. I know it's right there. Let's just get there. And I know that it takes a lot, you know, to adapt and adjust once you get there. But then kind of like one of the things on my bucket list for a long time has been to travel to another country and live there with my family, because of exactly what you're saying, right? Like teaching your kids about the world. Like, so how did you make that decision, and what was that like?
So world schooling is a concept that you can bring home right now, today. Oh. It's not
world like a manual I could use or something.
It's like,
that would be great.
There's such a great community, right? Like, there's so many people out there. So yes, Instagram is your manual. Find the world schoolers.
Got it.
Hashtag world school. And world schooling is such a cool concept because it's about introducing the world to your kids and also teaching them about, like, you know, it depends on, Brody's really into political stuff with especially developing countries. And we talked the other day, we were riding our bikes and skateboarding. We had taken a break and we were walking somewhere. And he said, he was talking about the Olympics and how often in developing countries, when the Olympics comes, it can ruin a part because they build the facilities too quickly when there's such an impoverished population in that country. And so he's talking about this political aspect of something beautiful. The Olympics is amazing. We love to empower our kids to you know, if they want to become athletes, we're going to fight for that. We're going to empower them for that. And understanding that there's more to the story. And so that's his stance and what he teaches. I teach more of like the social aspect of like understanding that a parent in Nicaragua, both parents often work, they have multi-generations in one room. And so we allowed actually our kids to go to the nanny's house and see, and Charlotte came home, she cried. She did tell me like they had a dirt floor. And I said, but was there love there, baby? And she said, they were so happy. They were so happy. There was 9 of them in one spot. I was like, yes. And I want them to understand, not because I want to say we're privileged, but there is a part of that you have to understand your privilege. You have to check it and get where you come from. That doesn't mean you should be ashamed of it, 100%. But that you use it for the betterment of understanding and also implementing strategies that you can help these people. So we tried to empower we taught our housekeeper English while we were there. I was just thinking like, how can I help this situation? Because you realize this is a part of world schooling, is that you realize you're kind of a part of the problem when you're traveling to impoverished countries, because then you are the top 1% in that country. You're like the wealthy gringo. And I was like, that's not the type of person I want to be. So how can we eat local instead of eating all expat, you know, other travelers that have started restaurants? So there's two sides to every coin. And the experience of world schooling started in Canada. We started.
Why is everything cool always in Canada? Like the cool people, the cool concept. I don't understand. I literally feel like I'm supposed to be Canadian.
So get over here.
Get over here.
We're right by the mountains. I don't know, all the fresh air. I think we have to think of ways to be cool, because there's like legitimate 6 months of like -30 where we have to, it's legit. We're just coming out of a deep freeze. I'm over by the mountains near Banff. And so it started in Canada. We started implementing like ways that we could explain to the kids what we were about to see. We started, downsizing. I sold my business. There was a lot of like conversation about what we were walking into, the climate. You can do so many fun things with money and understanding like their money. We collect currency from all over the world because I think that's so fun. And sometimes the Tooth Fairy brings Abu Dhabi money, like money from the United Arab Emirates and stuff like that. And I'll be like, oh, that's why she was late and she forgot last night. Yeah. Especially back when I used to drink wine, and I'd be like, whoops. Yeah. So she came a day late because she was in the UAE and she couldn't get out.
Oh my gosh.
And
such a worldly tooth fairy.
Yeah, such a worldly tooth fairy. So when we went world schooling, there was this concept that it had started before. And then what you really do is you dial back all the societal norms of the curriculum to education. You teach them the basics of what they need. So kids, especially grade 4 and higher, need math and science. Science is actually kind of meh. Math is absolutely essential. But aside from math, the rest of it is really interpretive. You can decide, like for science, for instance, teaching about climate in a place that's so close to the equator, you can do at the beach, and you can talk about why it's so hot and why berries, for instance, blackberries, do not grow in Nicaragua. We missed berries because we're in a cold climate. We have berries here. They don't have that there. And so there was a lot of conversation that we could have around that. And you just teach them about the economy and about the markets and about money and about politics. And you just like embrace where you are and really teach them. So actually at the time of COVID, when it first started in Asia, we started paying attention in January because we were thinking of moving to Japan from Nicaragua, because I was like, I'm not done with Asia. I'd love to see Japan. It looks like an amazing place. I'd always told myself it was too expensive, but then realized like, no, we could make this work.
Mm-hmm.
And I had been coaching online. Brody was in charge mostly of the school. And he was getting a little bored in Nicaragua because it's a bit boring. It's really great if you're into surfing, but we had a 4-year-old. So if he was surfing, you know, our 4-year-old could drown. And I was busy at home taking clients from all over the world. And so it became a place where he was like, okay, we need a city, we need something. And so we started looking at moving to Asia. And then everything started shifting. So we ended up coming back to Canada. And here we are.
Oh my gosh. I need a drink. Just kidding. So it's almost like your whole, your life prepared you for this. Like hearing how you approached when you were 18, let's say, like the decisions that you made and the way that you broke away from the cultural norms of your family and the traditional path and all of that. It seems like you have beautifully woven it into your life as a mother and just a human in 2021. Do you feel like that those two are connected? Because at first you were saying, I wonder if it was, you know, a little bit of intentional rebellion against my parents and all of this stuff. But hearing you speak about it, it feels like you just pulled a piece of your identity and it makes it effortless for you to then parent in this way. Because even talking about world schooling, to me, I care a lot about privilege. I care a lot, or educating my kids about their privilege. I care a lot about politics. But also I feel like I sometimes question whether I will explain it or educate them in a way that is clear enough, and I don't want to confuse them. And so the things that I usually stick to is emotional intelligence, resilience, mistakes, you know, the coachy stuff, because I'm like, this, I got this. Like I got this, like conscious parenting, like bring it on, that kind of stuff. And so it feels really effortless for me to do that because it's the work that I do with my clients. Right. And so, but for you, it's really interesting hearing you talk about it because I don't know where berries grow. I mean, I know I've got some in my backyard. That my husband is the agricultural one and I am from Queens, New York, and didn't know anything except city life until I was basically 20. And now, again, an example of me just going with the flow and being a creature of adaptation. Is that a thing? How I just adapt really quickly. So now I'm like, oh, now I'm living the suburban life. Cool. My husband wants chickens. Great. We'll get chickens. Like my kids, I think my kids need a guinea pig. I'll figure out how to have a guinea pig. Like, I feel like I'm always seeing what everybody needs to, and like watering that almost. And so I can kind of be a chameleon in that way, but it's very inspiring to hear you talk about this because something that I feel like I want to do better as they get older is that piece, exactly what you're saying. Like when I went to Peru, I was 21, I think. And I had just gone through my own life trauma. And I was like, I went there for healing. And I went there and these people, same thing, like dirt floors, like, you know, everybody's washing their hands in one bucket, which is also where they wash the dishes. And, you know, just experiencing that culture was so expansive for me. And so I learned so much by osmosis, just by being in that culture. There was alchemy that happened and I became a different person. And it was so beautiful and it was so transformative. And it wasn't like, look, now I'm a better person because I've been to a third world country. You should, you know, it's like, I don't want to even say it like that because it wasn't so, you know, thought out that way, but it does feel like I had to tap into, like when you said you meet yourself in India, like that's what it has felt like. And I want that for my kids. I want them to meet themselves because they do have this cushy, privileged life that we've made for them and it works for everybody. But I know that that's like the next level, you know? So I guess where I'm like rambling a little bit, but when you were in Laos and you said to God, like, is something wrong with me? I'm curious, A, what God said back, and B, now seeing how it's all come together in your life as a mother and a business owner and a woman, do you feel like now it's worked out for you? Like you understand that there's nothing wrong with the way that you do things. It's actually your edge. It's your special thing that makes you you, and it makes you the mother you are, and it's going to help you, effortlessly guide your kids into becoming the humans they're meant to be.
Yeah. And so I want to circle back though to something that you had said about parenting. So you said that you adapt and you're thinking about what everybody needs. And in my head, I was thinking that's your zone of genius. It's your way of like, and you're a quick human. And so you're like on the spot, like not everybody knows how to do that. And so that's why you're so magnetic, because when people watch that, they're like, I want whatever that is, but they can't quite figure it out. And you just really described what it is. And being that for your family is what's going to be magnetic, both for your family and for your business. It's like understanding that you're the embodiment of that truth inside your heart. So that is like, that's the goods of what's going to attract people to us as business people and as humans. And it's something that we need to breathe into each other as women, because that can be quite scary, because it's an unknown, right? And it's not normal, and it's not the way of the world. And other women might see that and feel like, I don't know how to do that, so I'm not going to talk about it. I'm going to stand over here. I'm going to let you do you, and then we start being like, is there something fucking wrong with me?
Yeah.
What did I do? And it's confusing, right? And so we have to, when we find our tribe, when we find other people that are also living kind of this revolutionary renegade momming life, we have to really empower them to say like, you got this, like you are doing the thing, you're doing the work and something. So I don't know why, when I was saying the Asian countries, I was like, Cambodia, Lao, we actually couldn't get. I want to just be real clear. We couldn't get a visa for Laos. So I didn't end up in Laos. I was in Malaysia, Thailand, Cambodia, that trip. And then we moved to Taiwan and we went to the Philippines. But that sitting on the beach, I'm going to circle back to that, sitting on the beach, looking up, because I think that this is important for everybody who has wondered what's wrong with me. Sitting on the beach, because I had written my mother this huge apology letter before I left. I'm sorry, I'm not the daughter you wanted me to be, all these things. And I truly meant it. And I was like really hard on myself, which is a symptom of perfectionism. I'm a recovering perfectionist. I'm familiar,
yes.
Among other things. And when I sat there on the beach, I think what I heard and what God said to me was nothing, get up and go. Like there's a story in the Bible, take your mat and go. You are like, sin no more. It is actually missing the mark. Sin is missing the mark. And I was missing the mark, believing that I was flawed. And we are all fundamentally, we've got some wickedness in us. Like, if you've got some Bell Christians up in there. I didn't come to Christ until I was well on my traveling days. And I'm cursing Christian, a little woo-woo, but I believe in the biblical explanation of how we should be living our lives in the salvation and all these things. That's a conversation for another day. But the idea of understanding that I had missed the mark on who I was called to be and that I was made for more, all of a sudden opened up this gateway to just understanding that my life was designed to be wild. Like I am not this way by accident. This was made inside me, and this is purposeful and beautiful. And incorporating these things with my kids, I'll answer that question. Really what it's been is understanding two things. One, a mom asked me the other day, are you worried about your daughter? Our oldest is very intelligent. She reads like every book she can get her hands on, but she's a bit anxious sometimes. And I said to this mom, my job right now is to clean up my side of the fence. This is what inspires my work in my business and helping other women to feel empowered to run whatever it is inside their heart. Oftentimes they get women that are like, just tell me the answer. I want the blueprint. And I'm like, yeah, me too. I understand. I understand you want that, but that's not really what you want. Because if I had all the answers, then if I was wrong, you could blame me and that would feel good to you in some fucking way, but that's not what you need. What you need is to fall in love with your inner being so deeply that you can explain to the world who it is that you are. Because
Mm.
when you can do that, you've got your fulfillment, you've got your passion, your joy, and you can monetize it. My program is actually called Moved to Monetize, because I want to move you into the place in this. I do this through somatic energy, through understanding yourself and moving towards that so that you can monetize this joy. But what I explained to this mom is like, I'm in charge of my side of the fence. The more I align with my inner being, the more I fall in love with my identity and who I'm called to be in this world. My daughter will, by proxy, just suck that in. And she says the most profound things. And sure, she's got anxiety. Who doesn't? I just didn't have words when I was 10 to explain that I felt anxious when I would fuck up. I didn't have the words to explain to my parents, I don't know how to be what you want me to be. And she does. So I don't worry about her, because she is a product of a home that is healing. And that is the truest gift I can give her. And then the other thing about speaking your truth, it's like, what you said about your coaching, you know how to do it. You're just doing it. That's you. That's like your life, you know? And when we can parent that way, it just so happens that I don't have a big filter with my kids. So they've got a vocabulary that's a little like out of their depths, you know, and they're learning at a different velocity, and we're just all doing the best we can. And oftentimes the teachers will be like, I don't know what you're doing in that house, but like, you got it going on. About our kids.
What a compliment.
Yeah. And I'm like, isn't every house like that? And then I realized like, oh no, this is a little different. So
oh my gosh, that was so much good stuff you just said. Thank God this is being recorded, but I don't even know which one I want to start with. What did you say when you align with the truth in your heart or something like that? Like you're, what was it? Do you remember?
I don't know, but I can speak on that for a second. The alignment. So what I teach my clients to do is like really the rudimentary, like the basic way we do it is through vision, values, mission, dream, those 4 aspects. But really when that alignment, when you can tune into, there's something inside you that's like pleading to be brought manifest, to be brought into the world. It's asking you. It's like calling to you in the moments when you're in the shower, or when you're in your zone of genius, like right when you've accomplished your task and you're kind of like, I got this. It's not, I got this, I did the dishes. It's like, it's this thing that is in alignment in your spirit that's like asking to be brought into the world. And when you can attune to that, when you can allow yourself the space to not be the shoulds, like I tell my clients, don't should all over yourself. When you take out the shoulds, take out the guilt, take out the perfectionism, and you can get back into this, then you start to be able to embody that. And by proxy, the people in your environment will just like suck into it. They'll magnetize. They have no choice. What I've explained to Brody before, because men are a little slower with the work, you know this.
Yeah. Do tell. What did you explain to Brody?
As I'm walking the path, I'm like, some days I get a little accusatory, which is a scapegoat for spiritualism, when I'm like, I know this. And he's like, he'll snap that right off. Like, no, we're not going to do that. But as I walk towards my inner being, as I remember who I'm really truly called to be, he has no choice but to magnetize towards it, because either that, or he'll stay so far over here that the dissonance will become too large, and we'll naturally fall away from each other, because the standards will change. And so he by nature is growing into an evolution of himself. And I tell him all the time how lucky he is. But he needs to gradually move. It will just happen. It's not a need to, actually. It's a magnetism. It's exactly what you said. And the people that are called to you, including your children, will naturally magnetize towards that alignment.
That is so beautifully put. And I've never thought about it in terms of mothering, though. So I literally was just having a conversation with a client last week about this, where, you know, with her husband, she's rising. And it's funny because you keep describing it like you can't see our hands. Well, you can if you're watching on YouTube, but you know, her hands are going horizontal. And when I do this with my client, I think of it as like a vibrational level, let's say. So your energy is up here and you're just rising, right? Because you keep attuning, you keep saying yes to what is true for you, like how you desire to show up, for your vision, for your desires, for your worthiness, for all of it. You just keep like allowing it more and more and more. And so you just rise, right? Your vibrational energy rises. And then your partner is down here like, what the fuck, yo? What's up with you? Right. And so we were having this conversation where it's so tempting as women, as in romantic relationships. I don't even want to say like man, woman. What is that? Cisgender. Anyway, in partnership, it's so tempting to be like, well, I'm up here, so you need to rise and meet me, versus just embody what, I also say embody. Are you embodying what you're teaching, which is basically what you keep talking about in your work, what you reflected to me that I'm doing my work, which is what you also have to do or get to do in your partnerships. Are you embodying what you say? Right? Like all of the things that you're preaching, that you say you care about in your relationships, are you embodying it? Because then it is like a magnet. So as you rise, they will have no choice. They will either be magnetized and rise to meet you so that they will be your match, or the dissonance will be so great that they will just fall away. And there's literally nothing you can do about it anyway. So you get to choose. I'm going to choose myself and my own alignment and my growth and expansion and living the fullest expression of who I was meant and designed to be. Or I'm going to stay down here at this low vibrational energy because I'm too scared that I'll lose this person if I rise. Mm-hmm. And so this is the conversation I was having with this client, but I love how you're explaining it in motherhood, because you have no choice, right? Like you're not, especially when your kids are young, they're not going to move away or something. It's not like you're a unit, right? So why would you, gosh, this fucking microphone, why would you say no to your desires and your dreams and your vision and who you truly are, like block the flow, judging yourself, all of that, when the more that you attune to it, the more your kids just, you said, by proxy, they just absorb it. You're cleaning up your side of the fence and then they rise with you. They rise with you. They rise with you. And then obviously there comes a certain age where they get to choose. And there might be, I'm super excited about that phase when they get older, and I'm sure it will be really challenging because then the ego comes in and they might be like, no, I disagree. Or I choose to go a different path. I don't like your side of the fence. But I think it's so empowering what you're saying in the context of motherhood, because exactly, if you clean up your side of the fence and just keep growing and expanding, your kids they just get the vitamins. It's like when you get a vaccine and the kids get the antibodies if you're pregnant, it's like they're just by proxy getting the good juju. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, absolutely. And there's something really important here that I want to touch on briefly, is that when you had been talking about, and perhaps it's this client, it has definitely been me in so many times in my life. The reason why I call it out is because I know how dysfunctional it is, that spiritualism where we go, I'm doing this and you're not growing. Like my thing to Brody was like, you're not growing. I kept saying that to him. And by nature, because my boundary system wasn't focused on myself and I was focused outward, I actually wasn't growing either.
Right.
That is a lie that we tell ourselves to keep ourselves in this and that's why I stopped referring to it as up and down, because I felt like I was. And I was judging others, mostly the people closest to me, for their lack of evolution, when really it's an outwards, inwards thing in my heart, because I'm recognizing that when my boundaries are firm, I'm watching my behavior and asking, is this in line? So for instance, if he does something that's really not in line with my value system as it's grown through my evolution, what I do is I say to myself, sometimes in real time, sometimes the boundary has been created beforehand, but I'll say something like, if you raise your voice, this is a really easy one. If he raises his voice at me, he doesn't even need to know the boundary. If he raises his voice in a conversation that gets heated because he has a hard time having difficult conversations, that's hard for him. If he raises his voice, I will leave I will leave the conversation. I'll let him know that I'll come back when it's less charged. That's a really simple one. And this is a way that you can allow your boundaries to be about you. And I'm not even heated about it. I don't even feel anything. I feel like
you're not engaging.
I'm doing me so well that nothing else. And then he just says to himself like, oh, that's a standard that I don't want to be there anymore. So 14 years, this is 2 years ago, he got to a place where he's like, I don't do that anymore. I just don't. I just don't raise my voice, because he knows that to be in conversation with me, he's going to have to regulate his own emotional being. And so it's the same with all other things. And the very last thing I want to say really quick is that with the kids, what I've tried to explain to them recently is this: listen, mom has a value system that's surrounded, we attend church, for instance, and that is like a pretty big it's a huge thing for me in my mental health. And I want them to feel that they have autonomy there. I don't want to say this group think situation because I believe in salvation, or I believe in Christ, and I'm a little bit of a progressive, what you'd call a progressive Christian. I just have different views. I'm a leftist Christian, which is rare.
Yeah, I've never met one of you. This is fascinating.
I'm just a little bit different, because I don't believe that we need to tell anybody what they don't need. I think all we ever need is more love, more Jesus in my heart. I know this, I feel this, but I also don't want my kids to think that they have to believe what I believe. I want them to make their own decisions. And through that strength of understanding, this is my side of the fence, you have yours, you do you. When I do that, when I allow them to be separate from me and have that autonomy, they naturally will go to what feels good to them. And if they become like me, that's great. And if they become something else, that's fine. But we have a family value system that is so firm in compassion, in humanitarianism, these things that are like the core values of our family, that if you're falling outside of that, then that's a value issue. And we're going to talk about it. Like there's going to be some, like, if you're not kind, if there's been bullying happening, if you've been rude or whatever, we're going to talk about that. But aside from that, it's all fair game. I'm like, you want to become Muslim, go for it.
But then how do you give them autonomy while also taking them to your church? How do you do that? How do you get them out of groupthink? Because I've literally just had this conversation with someone important, and I was feeling like I am incredibly spiritual, and I talk to my kids about God and spirituality all of the time in the way that I understand it and what feels true for me. But I don't feel the need to take them to church because for me, church is not like my place. And so somebody was telling me, well, they need to experience that community. And I was like, my fear is that they will go and feel the pressure to believe what everybody else believes instead of that autonomy. So just a personal question, how do you do that? How do you send them to your church, but then tell them they can be autonomous?
Yeah. So like we are the nucleus, right? Brody and I are the center of their universe. And I have, our church is it's like one of those hipster churches. Like it's newer, it's great. Although it's very biblically sound, their teaching is so much so that sometimes I'm like, I have an issue with that. And I think those conversations are also important for them to listen to something and then create a dialogue about it. So we talk a lot about, what do you think about this? And they're in, youth. So they're going to the younger church. So it's all quite vanilla right now. But I've explained to them, like, if you have questions about what's being taught, I want you to talk about it. And they also have a lot of grounds to be able to speak about that. They have 2 grandpas that are married. So like they have a different perspective, right? And they see all sides. But what Brody and I pride ourselves in doing is, yes, we bring them to church, and we also bring them to skateboard rides through the inner city so that they understand where they live. And we just create the dialogue at our kitchen table. We just continue to talk about it. And if the conversation comes up where they say, I really didn't like this, or I don't believe that, then what we've committed to is being able to hold space for that, and just to say, okay, I believe this, and tell me, we get curious, like, tell me your thoughts on this. We also live in, like I said, an oil city. We live in a very wealthy community. Their school is amidst we're not talking like regular wealthy people, like billions kind of people. And so there's different political agendas, there's different power. And Amelia comes home and she's like, I think this is stupid that they're all a part of, the golf and country club, and we don't attend that golf and country club. And she brings home this dialogue, and I'm like, yeah, tell me more. Like, what do you want to say about that? And so just allowing them to have the mic a little bit. as they grow older and whatever is appropriate for them.
Whoa. And then, so if one day she's like, I don't want to go to church because I don't believe this, would you say she's allowed to opt out?
I think so. I think that's the only option.
Yeah. Get a babysitter or something? How does she get? Just kidding. I don't know. It's just like, it's so fascinating. And I feel like it's so refreshing to get into the micro layers of parenting, of mothering with this, with such intention. And I really want to acknowledge you. I feel like this is a good place to wrap it up. I want to acknowledge you for being someone that to me appears to be mothering and living with such intention. And that is so, so inspiring for me, for other women to just get the permission to be embodied, like live with intention. You can't fuck it up as long as it's an open dialogue and you're cleaning up your side of the fence. Like that is the work. That's literally all you have to do. So it's inspiring. It's beautiful to witness. And it's also very, approachable. Like anybody can do it, you know? So I really appreciate that.
Yes, thank you so much. And the truth of it is, when you said you can't fuck it up, that's so deeply true, because here's the thing. We are meant to co-regulate. You can't heal in a vacuum. You cannot heal on an island by yourself. I wish it could be that way, because it'd be way easier for somebody like me who has a lot of like anxiety and emotional experience of like having a critical mother. And therefore I see everything is unsafe. I wish I could heal by myself, but I can't. So I have to heal it in relationship, which means I am going to fuck it up. That is like an inevitable fact. And the beauty of life is being able to reassess. This was what I did. This is the pattern. I can see it. And this is what I want to do to make it better. Oh, there's nothing better in parenting. There's nothing better in your experience as a coach and a human and a wife and a member of society. And I'm just like, I'm just so stoked to be among good company.
Yeah, no, I love that. Normalizing the humanness, normalizing the fuck ups, normalizing the earth lessons as they teach in spiritual psychology. So okay, a lot of people are going to want to know where they can find you and keep in touch with you. So how can they go find you and like explore working with you and see what you're doing in the world?
Yeah. So on Instagram is my one platform where I'm like here. I took a bit of a break during the pandemic, as many of us mothers did. So Miss MS Juliana James is the best place to find me.
Yay. All right. Well, thank you again so much for your time. And this was just so awesome. I feel like we're going to need a part 2 because I have more questions, like the mother wound, the sobriety. There's like a lot, but I feel like this is probably a good wrap for part 1. And maybe we'll let the people vote if we should do a part 2. Okay.
So good. Thank you so much.
See ya.
Bye.